All right, Firestarter 15 looks like a question from your study guide. It's slightly different, but it'll be a good way to help you with that. I'm going to erase this picture just because the study guide doesn't have the picture, and it's probably where the hardest part with the study guide is probably figuring out how I came up with this picture. And then once I get the picture, actually things get kind of easy. So right here, it says find the value of variable in XP. Remember, two capital letters next to each other, that means it's going to be a segment. Specifically a line segment. All right, so I know that's a line segment, and I am telling you that x is between p and q. That also means that p and q, they also must make a line segment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, there's p, there's q. That's a line segment. And then it says x is in between, so I'm just going to put x somewhere in between. This is not drawn to scale. This does not have to be mathematically correct. All right, this is just a good general diagram to help me. Now I can see these things on my, so I can see xq. xq is here. So right here I know it's going to be 42. And then xp is 6x minus 2. So I'm going to take 6x minus 2. I know that's going to go right here. And now I also know that the whole thing is going to be 100. Now the segment addition postulate says that if I put this piece together, so if I put 6x minus 2 and I add it to 42, together it should equal 100. All right. Now I'm going to I just took my geometry. This is all geometry to begin. Now we're in algebra land. 6x minus 2 plus 42 is 6x plus 40 equals 100. I was going to subtract 40 from both sides because remember, we just talked a little bit about PEMDAS backwards. So you get rid of the addition with subtraction. So I end up with 6x equals 60. Now to get rid of that multiplication, that's 6 times x, I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And then I'm going to end up with x equals 10. All right. Now, so that's the variable. So the variable that's actually a little x, not a big X. Sometimes I don't like using x, but that's just what the problem had. And then so I got the variable. All right. Now I need to find xp. So xp is 6 little x minus 2. Well, x is 10, so I'm going to say xp is equal to 6 times 10 minus 2. xp equals 58. Now remember, because this is a segment equal a number, I don't have to have the bar on top. Remember when we were writing proofs and stuff, we had to put the bar on top of that segment? That's when it was not equal to a number. All right, so that's good for 15. All right, the second part of this Firestarter is about the distance formula and the midpoint formula. Both of those, I've given you both of those so you can see. The biggest part here is you have to identify x and y. It doesn't matter which one you call x1 and which one you call x2. It's whatever you feel more comfortable with. I'm going to call this one x1, which means this one's that one's y1. As long as I make x1 and y1 the same ordered pair, then it doesn't matter. I could make a x2, y2. All right, but I cannot make one of them x1, then the other one y2. Like -3 could be x1, but then -1 has to be y1. Right? It can't be y2. So there's my x1, y1. So for distance, I'm going to use this formula. I'm just going to plug it in. So I'm going to say d equals the square root of x2 is going to be -5 minus -3 squared plus, see how big key important thing to point out here is notice how I have the negative sign from the formula and I still have the negative sign from the -3. All right, that you should have two negative signs. Now I'm going to put y2, which is -11 minus -1 squared, and that's all. It's called a square root. So you'll put that in your calculator. Be the easiest way to do that. You could put this all in your calculator if you're using one of my calculators or something similar. You could type it in all like that. I like to do the parentheses first. So -5 minus -3. So negative 5 minus a negative, that's like adding. So I have negative 2, remember it's in parentheses, that's important. Negative 11 minus a negative 1, so then I have negative 10 squared. All right. So notice, there's parentheses here. When I type in my calculator, I have to have negative inside the parentheses, or it's going to give me a wrong answer. If at any time you take the square, you square this, and it gives you a negative number for distance, it's not going to make sense. And that should make sense because distance is never negative. All right, so you can't have a negative answer. That's why it's in parentheses squared. So now I have equals 4 plus 100. So I have the square root of 104. Now I'm just going to put that in my calculator to give me an estimate. So the square root of 104 is about 10 point, we'll say 10.1 or 10.2. So it's